I'm recording. Okay. Welcome. So, Adrian, since you're here, I'm not going to completely call you out, but let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to ask them along the way. This session is being recorded and will be available up on the Lamb Family College of Business, Innovation and Entrepreneurship website once the closed captioning has finished rendering. Other than that, I want to welcome you to our workshop series. I think this is the third one this semester. And it's really about helping San Francisco State students, alumni, and the general community communicate their innovative ideas and entrepreneurial ideas to their potential investors, to potential partners, suppliers, but just how to get your idea out, how to get it funded, and how to get it executed. Today's workshop specifically is on how to tell and sell your innovation idea. My name is Sybil Yang. I'm the Faculty Director of Innovation and Entrepreneurship for the Lamb Family College of Business, and I'm also an Associate Professor in the college. Welcome. I want to give you a brief overview, on some of the services that we take care of within innovation and entrepreneurship at San Francisco State. We not only hold pitch competitions for the student body, including a university-wide one, a college-wide one for the Lamb Family College of Business, but then also another pitch competition for the computer science department. But we also help the college university participate in a CSU-wide pitch competition. Those are some of the dates of the events that are coming up for the rest of the semester. In addition to the pitch competitions, we also provide the incubator, which is a concept incubator for currently enrolled students across the university. Any program, any major. So undergraduate, graduate, CEL students, just as long as you're a registered student. And what the incubator really does is we provide services and hard resources for students to build out and ideate their concepts and to prepare them to pitch these ideas to the rest of the world to take them out to the next step. So this may include grant funding up to about $2,000 for entrepreneurs, heavy mentorship, so pretty much all contact, consultation, everything from marketing, market research to product design, web development to financial modeling and helping you build out a pitch deck. So that type of mentorship, coaching as well. So we will walk you through kind of the next steps. We are not your co-founder, but we will walk you through the next steps of what that co-founding might actually be. We provide a lot of programming for the incubators, including networking events where you have a chance to showcase your ideas and your presentations to alumni and community members, faculty, and staff. That includes exposure on campus and off of campus. And we also host a number of demo days where you get to demonstrate your idea out to the real world. Aside from that, outside of the incubator program, we also provide general consulting and advising for the community. I am actually in the fabulous student-run restaurant, the Vista Room on campus and 401 Burke Hall. Every single Friday from 11 until 5 o'clock in the evening, we offer open office hours for concept consulting. So it's much the same incubator resources, but just on an ad hoc basis. You don't have to be a student. We would like to see students, but alumni and community members are absolutely welcome to drop on in for the open office hours. Okay, so enough about kind of the services that we offer on campus. I'm going to kind of toot our horn a little bit in terms of I&E. These are some of the concepts that we have incubated over the past handful of years. A number of them have gone on to not only win the university-wide pitch competition, but have gone on to do some real impactful things out in the world. I'm thinking in particular, Helping Vision creates Raspberry Pi centered machine learning enabled currency readers for the blind. And there are currently schools for the blind in India that are using the inventions that have come out of Helping Vision. Okay. Great. And I'm going to go ahead and move on to the topic that you guys are here for, which is how to tell and sell your concept and ideas. When you put together a pitch deck, when you put together a pitch, right, you're throwing your idea out there just like a baseball player pitches out a ball. You're throwing your idea out there to see if somebody's going to take and latch onto that idea. And what we usually use, the vehicle for that pitch, is a pitch deck. Fancy name for a PowerPoint presentation. So the pitch deck, I don't know if you guys can actually see if you guys are seeing the slides move.
No, we are not.
I'm seeing them move on my screen, but I don't know. Are they moving on you guys' screen?
No.
If somebody could just give me a real quick either notation in the chat, do you see slides moving, or are you still seeing a fabulous view of the San Francisco Bay Bridge?
That's the bridge.
And I'm not hearing anything. Can you guys go ahead and put it in the chat? No. Okay. Let me try to change the share.
You can't hear us. I think perhaps you could try to hear us, because I would like to talk and say something at some point, I'm sure.
I'm going to stop that then. There are some fabulous slides for you guys to check out, so I'm going to try to do that. We might just have to do it the old school way. Screen share, and I'll just share the PowerPoint page. Do you guys see slides moving now? Hopefully.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I can hear you guys now too. I think
good.
it's the HDMI adapter that I'm on. So
great.
No longer on an HDMI adapter. Okay. So hopefully you guys can see the slides now too.
Yes.
Okay. So we talk about a PowerPoint deck in terms of it's a pitch deck. We pitch the idea out to folks. At its most basic form, your pitch deck should try to achieve three things. You're trying to inform the audience of whatever it is that you're doing. And we'll get into more detail on each one of these. So it's a bit informational. What do you do? What problem do you solve? What market are you trying to address? Then you're trying to convince the audience of several things. One, that what you've informed them about in terms of the problem and the solution actually exists, that you can execute on it as well. And then you need to convince them that this is a problem that actually needs solving. And then finally, and a lot of times innovators and entrepreneurs forget this last piece, which is some form of call to action. You don't just want to pitch your idea out there, you want some sort of goal to this pitch, whether it's to capture investment, which is the most obvious form of pitch, some form of investment, or sometimes this pitch deck is used to capture a partner, because a partner wants to know whether or not they should be spending their time on you. So this could be a legal partner, this could be a business partner, this could be a potential founder that you have along the way. So just like how a resume is used to pitch you to a potential employer, your pitch deck is used to pitch your concept to a wide array of audiences with a wide array of goals. And just like how you would have a customized resume for each employer that you're kind of, offering yourself out to, you should have a customized pitch deck to every potential audience that you're going to be pitching to. So your pitch deck is going to be slightly different for investors than for potential founding partners, to vendors or bankers that might be willing to extend you credit for a loan or so. So each deck will have its own purpose, and each purpose should be geared towards a specific audience. Now, if you're just kind of presenting to a general demo day where there are lots of different interested parties inside the audience, you still want some sort of generic call to action, either to get a hold of you for partnership or to potentially invest in you. And we'll talk about how you might present those forms of call to action. But first and foremost, let's talk about how you inform the audience, because everybody needs to be informed about what you're doing in particular. Okay, two pieces on the on the information is you need to make clear what it is that you're doing So, what solution or what problem are you targeting, and who is this targeted to? Who has this problem, and who is this solution meant for? These may sound like some very basic things, but we tend to get mired in way too much detail and way too much clutter when we try to inform people about what we do and who we do it for. So let's get a little bit more specific on the what do we do part. Okay. When we try to explain what we do, we want to make it very understandable to a lay person. Presumably, you are a founder because you're a technical expert in whatever it is that you do. Not everybody that you're pitching to is going to have this level of technical expertise. So when you inform people about what you're doing, what the problem is, and what your solution is, the easiest way to communicate this to a lay person is to walk the person through the path of the potential user. This potential user, the potential guest, the potential customer has a problem. Walk the audience through what this problem actually is. And a great analogy on this is any infomercial or a lot of those direct to consumer commercials that you see these days. They start off with like, do you feel itchy? Or, does your boyfriend smell? And, need a new soap type of thing. It starts off trying to put you into the shoes of the customer that has a problem. So let's walk through what this form of information and informing the audience might look like, walking this user path. What I call walking this user path is we have a couple of concepts that we have incubated in the past. I'm going to start off with adrenaline here. So adrenaline is a track and field apparel concept, and they walked people through the user path of the problem of existing sportswear by using a series of pictures. Now the pictures are relatively small right here, but I'm actually going to go ahead and, I guess this is the good part about using PowerPoint in general. I'm gonna bring to front. This founder told her story through a series of photographs. So of her using what is currently available in the market. And her problem that she found that most track and field athletes, specifically female track and field athletes, had was that shorts would ride up and butt cheeks would kind of hang out and on the back, and then in the front, the shorts would also ride up and she would end up with camel toe. Not on this slide, but she also mentioned that not only does the bottom ride up, but the top rides down. And so you're constantly pulling up the tops of your sportswear. And that was very distracting for track and field athletes who just needed the shorts to stay put. So she used pictures to kind of reach at the heartstrings of people to kind of like, yeah, I see how that could be very uncomfortable and how that could be a problem for performance athletes. I'm going to go ahead and delete this so this poor girl's crotch is not in the middle of everybody's presentation. And so this is how she defined her problem to folks. Lupini milk was another concept that we went ahead and backed a couple of years back. And Lupini milk framed their problem in terms of the current alternative milks that are out there. So think almond, think soy, think oat, right? A lot of them have allergens. Nuts are a huge allergen. Some people are allergic to oats. And soy is a recognized allergen as well. So the founder said, most of the nut milks out there, they are allergens and they are very low in protein. So oat milk is very low in protein, and soy milk has a fair amount of protein, but not nearly as much as milk, like cow milk. And so they wanted a solution to that. They presented a whole host of issues that were wrong with the current products in the status quo. And they presented their solution of, let's make a plant-based milk out of lupini beans instead. That solved all of those problems. So think of your information piece as you are informing the audience about what's wrong with the world today, what's wrong with the current solutions in the world today. And the best problems show themselves as a popular problem. Lots of people have this problem. It's a growing problem. So not only is there a large population with this problem, but the population that has this problem, that population size is going to be growing. So a great example of this is selling something to baby boomers. There are a lot of baby boomers right now, and more people will be joining that baby boomer population as lifespans get longer and people start aging. Same thing with Lupini milk. They started by arguing that there is a large alternative milk population out there, and it's growing as people are more conscientious about their health, as people become more and more allergic to more things inside this world. So that large population base is going to get bigger as more people develop more allergies, and more people are looking out for their health. Again, the best problems out there also have a sense of urgency, because a lot of times, especially if you're selling B2B to another business or to busy people or to people who are on a budget, they may hear your arguments about the problem and say, oh my God, I do have that problem also. But they're like, maybe next paycheck cycle, or maybe next budgeting cycle. If there's no sense of urgency to the problem, then the consumer can always just kick the can down the road and you never capture the sale. It could be a problem, but it must be a very pressing, a very urgent problem. So when you inform your audience about what this problem is, you also want to sell them on the idea that, this is a ticking time bomb and people really need to get on this right now. So insert in a sense of urgency, an argument that this is a problem that needs to be solved now. It's an itch that really needs to be scratched. One way in which you can kind of justify the sense of urgency is that the problem is very expensive, because if you don't take care of a mildly expensive problem right now, those problems tend to turn into big, very expensive problems, and that creates a bit of a sense of urgency. So you may have a problem that people are nodding their heads to and saying, yeah, that happens to me also. But if there is no real big pain to the problem, then there is no reason for the consumer to jump on the solution to that problem. Money is a big pain point. And so if you can show that your problem is costing people money, then the more likely people will bite that this is a problem that actually does need to get solved. Another form of urgency that you might find out there is if there's some sort of regulatory change that makes this problem mandatory to address. The classic example of like mandatory, problems is like HIPAA. Like a law passes and then all of a sudden now every single healthcare agency has to implement privacy protection information technology structures. So when you find that a law has passed, or that some dictatorial decree has come down, then everybody has to move. It doesn't matter if the problem is expensive, it is mandatorily urgent now because people have to comply with a law of some sort. These are always very tasty if you can find it. And I generally find that founders who are very steeped within an industry and are very well versed in the goings on of an industry, they see regulation coming down the pike and they can say, something, we need to prepare for this. This is a coming problem, and then suggest a solution to that coming problem. If you can find a situation where the customer mandatorily has to take on a solution, this is a great situation to be in. The other thing that makes for a really good problem is that the problem occurs frequently, that the consumer is going to run into this problem on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to go back to that, YouTube infomercial that I constantly see of Dr. Squatch's soap, which is, hey, does your boyfriend smell? Do you need a new soap type of thing? You smell yourself every day. Your community smells you every day. And so you are reminded every single day that you need to go ahead and solve this problem. Another business idea that I see very frequently that is a frequent problem is childcare. And you can see how something like childcare is a problem that parents will run into every single day. It seems like every single day babysitters are canceling on you, or nannies can't, have to revise their schedule or something like that. It's a recurring problem. So the more often this problem comes up, the more frequently it comes up, the more urgent it actually feels for people. In addition, the more frequent a problem happens, the more opportunity there is for you to charge money and make a sale. So in this sense, when you inform an audience about what problem you're trying to address and the potential solution that you might provide, you will find that arguing that there is a frequency to this problem also really helps make your case when you frame your idea and when you inform them about what your potential solution is to this idea. Okay. Let's see if I can. Okay. I'm going to give another example and kind of walk you through last year's pitch competition winner, how he went ahead and framed and informed about the problem and the solution that he was selling. And I like this example in particular because it is a very technical product. His product was called StomaMate. And I had no idea what this was when he first presented it. But a stoma is actually the hole in your larynx, right down here, kind of the soft spot, that people who have had laryngectomies, that they get a hole cut into their larynx over here, and a pipe is kind of inserted into the stoma that allows the person to breathe without having the air go through their nasal passage. So that's a stoma. And what he developed was a StomaMate, is a adapter cartridge assembly that fits into essentially a person's hole inside their neck that is more comfortable. So it's a very technical product, and he is an industrial designer, and so he was able to design the physical product, but he was having a hard time articulating this solution, this physical product, as a problem that is widespread and growing and urgent and expensive and frequently occurring. So how did he frame the necessity of this StomaMate product? Well, he started to describe what the problem was with the existing solutions that were out there. It's not like he completely anew invented, this cartridge set. Cartridge sets already existed, but he started convincing and talking to people about what's wrong with the current cartridge sets that are out there. And he found that people with who use stoma cartridges, they found it very uncomfortable. It was a hassle to deal with. The adhesives were very annoying and caused skin irritation, and they were disposable, and so they were expensive. How to use it daily. And so here you can already start to see that he's building a case for, not only comfort in terms of usage, but then also money for the customer, right? That it could be very expensive to start using these disposable forms of cartridges. What he didn't kind of put in here was perhaps there's like a eco stint to it also, a sustainability stint to it also, because if you don't have a disposable cartridge and you have a reusable cartridge, then you create less waste out there. He kind of alludes to it here, and he has it later on in his pitch deck, but he starts alluding to people who should be using a medical device, stop using the medical device because it's uncomfortable and it's a hassle. So here he's starting to set up an argument that there's a problem. The current product doesn't work well, so people don't use it. Current product is also very, very expensive. Not explicitly written on his slide was it's also a problem because it's disposable and it creates a lot of waste too. So you can start seeing how you lay out what's wrong with the world today. And then it's up to you after you set up, the problem that, it's now an urgent problem. It's a growing problem. And I think he does a pretty good job of saying, hey, it's a frequent problem. It's an expensive problem. This is a relatively small market because not a lot of people have holes inside their larynxes, but he tries to make an argument that, especially with COVID-19 coming on, everybody that has a stoma, like a hole inside their larynx, they are more exposed to COVID-19 and viruses if they don't use a stoma cartridge assembly. So he's trying to make a health argument there too. So this is just one example of how you might want to set up the argument. Okay. So that's kind of like walking users through the path of a problem in order to inform them about what you do. So show them what the problem is, show them what the solution might be. Another way in which you can inform, and this is good for if you don't have a lot of time to explain. So if you only have like maybe a minute for your pitch deck or so, is to really shorten down what you do in terms of an analogy. So in analogy, I mean, you say that you do X for Y audience, right? You are the Uber for food delivery, and that could be DoorDash, right? You are the Udemy for businesses, right? So the online learning platform for businesses. You want to choose some X, which is some business, some solution, some model of operation for a different audience than what that original product usually is. The key to this, using an analogy, is picking an X and a Y that are widely recognizable. So when I said like the Uber for food delivery, yes, that's Uber Eats, I realize, but you recognize, Uber, and you recognize a market of food delivery. Those are two very, very like recognizable things, and people can start imagining what an Uber for food delivery would look like. Now, if I gave you that, Udemy for business environments, you can imagine business environments, but you may not know who Udemy is. And so you're like, I still don't know what you're doing for business environments, right? So when you do choose an analogy, make sure that the analogy is easily understandable for people. And I'll try to give you an example here. This was a concept that came to us earlier on this academic year. It's called COOB. And this is initially how they described what they do, right? And I'm not going to expect you to read it all. Nobody's going to read this all, but this was literally on one of their slides. If I break down a little bit what they're doing, they're telling us conceptually how they're doing things. And here they conceptually tell us twice, like how they do whatever it is that they do. And then they even give a technical how they do whatever it is that they do. And it's only really this small part up here that they're using to kind of explain what it is that they actually do. So what COOB does is they're a dictionary. They are a dictionary for e-readers is essentially what they are. And the rest of their explanation of what they do is actually how they do it, not what they do and who they're doing it for. So a clearer way for them to inform an audience of what they're doing is this. This is what we changed it into, is we bring meaning to the words you read. So bringing meaning is kind of the X, and to you, anyone, to any audience, right? To the words that you read. I could have just as easily had them, be, hey, we bring meanings to the words kids read, or to the words, ESL learners read, because those are actually their target markets. But why pigeonhole yourself into like a specific target market in that sense, why not leave it up to the audience's imagination on who else could use this type of solution. So try to think very simply at its essence what you do. Koob here, like we just kind of used, we bring meaning to words as what they do, right? If I say to you like Uber, you can start imagining the problems that Uber and Uber's platform could solve. So start thinking at its essence, what problems you solve, not how you solve them, but the problem itself that you go ahead and solve. Look within your industry, like your target market, but also look outside of your industry for parallels, for analogies, something that's analogous to what you do. Oftentimes, the best solutions, the best innovations, the best ideas are stolen from another industry and repurposed for your industry, an industry that you are an expert in. So when you're looking for analogies, when you're looking to try to find the core of the problem that you're trying to solve, look to all industries and simplify. Don't get caught up in the way that Koob got caught up here in terms of like how you execute. When you're informing people about what you do, concentrate on the what you do for an audience, not how you're doing it for an audience or how you are achieving that solution. That's for later on. The more important thing is to catch people on what problem it is that you're solving. Okay. Now, what if you want to be an innovator and you want to be an entrepreneur, but you don't really have a problem that you've identified? How do you find a good problem? I encourage you to start with what you know, meaning if you have expertise within an industry, if you've worked in an industry for a fair amount of time, or you've worked within a position, you've worked in HR or accounting or finance, like what bothers you? What makes your life difficult? What is a problem that you run into on a day-to-day basis as an accountant, as a financial analyst, or in your personal life? What have you run into on a day-to-day basis as a mother, as a caregiver, as a pet owner? Start with what you know and identify what pains and what annoyances you've run into. What have you found to be urgent, frequent, costly problems? And that's a great place to start. Once you kind of see areas of problems, talk with people, talk with other people who might be in the same situation to confirm that it's not just you, like you're not the only one with this problem. So this can be very casual, especially when you're not doing it in an academic or a research, like a formal academic research setting, but rather when you're in industry. Just go ahead and pull some of your coworkers aside first, and just have a conversation with them. You know, one of the things that I've always had a problem with, and I would love an innovator to come through and start addressing this type of problem, and you're going to hear this problem again later on, is I am a single person and I buy milk, like cow's milk, but I can't finish the entire container of cow's milk. And so I use a couple cups of it and then it goes back in the refrigerator. And the next time I reach for that half gallon of milk, I don't know if it's gone bad or not, right? And so I am hesitant to taste that milk and try to use it inside my coffee. And so I usually just end up dumping it. It's an expensive problem. And it happens relatively frequently. So I end up, you know, churning through maybe 3 half gallons of milk every single week and tossing it because I don't know if I can use it or not, right? But I don't know if it's just me, if I am unusual in this. And so I may pull some friends aside and say, hey, like, do you have a problem with like not wanting to taste, you know, questionable milk that's inside, you know, your refrigerator or not? And along the way, I've had some yeses, I've had some nos, and having this conversation will also help you narrow down the type of person that has this problem. So I've talked with, people who have like families, and they don't really have this problem nearly as badly because they go through milk fairly often. Right. I've also run into people who are like, no, I use like non-dairy milks. And so they don't go bad as easily. They're usually, ultra heat pasteurized. And so they hold for a much longer time. So when you have conversations, you start getting an idea of whether this is a problem or how big of a problem, how recurrent this problem is. You start getting problem definition. If through your exploration, you start finding and defining a market that has this problem, you're pretty confident about it, right? Then you can start going outside of your convenient circle of friends and acquaintances and start doing a little bit more formal market research, because maybe your group of friends and acquaintances all kind of think alike. So now it's time to spread that research a little bit further to get a wider audience. Then with this wider audience, if you still get confirmation that this problem exists, start asking for payment. Ask them, so how much would you be willing to pay for this? If I had this solution right in front of you, would you be willing to pay? Like, would you be willing to spend your time and maybe pay to be a beta customer for us to test out potential solutions with you? This is where the rubber hits the road and you actually, get people's consent. A lot of times you'll find that people will say like, yeah, of course I have that problem. But when you ask them to put their money where their mouths are, they start backing off a little bit. So you want to be so sure that this problem actually exists, where people want to be in on the solution, either with their time or better yet, with their money that they're willing to pay. And that is an excellent starting point for you to be ready as an indicator that you are ready to start and prototype something, to create a minimally viable product, to test out whether or not your solution can actually work. So remember, whenever you're talking with potential users, potential target market, you want to reveal their core pain. A lot of times they're going to start talking about, maybe features. Oh, well, I wish the milk just came into slightly smaller containers or something like that. Don't get swayed and distracted by like the little feature or add-ons to existing products. Customers may think they have a solution in mind, but be a little bit more flexible than that. Try to dig at what their underlying problem is, what they feel the most pain with. And oftentimes there are a couple ways to reveal this. Is if people have a problem, what are they buying and how are they trying to cope with that problem? So one way you can ask about coping and, what are you buying is to ask them, so do you hack together a solution? Like, how do you make do with this so far? Like, have you YouTubed like a hack to solve this problem of some sort? And usually when people are frustrated enough with the problem, they will hack together a solution. They will try to cobble together some form of solution because the problem is just so painful. They need some sort of temporary bandage. You want to find those types of problems. That's a good problem area to start with. So in a business capacity, when I've worked as a financial analyst in that capacity, oftentimes I would cobble together solutions in Excel. It's like a jankily formed series of Excel spreadsheets that will do what I need it to do, but it's it's a coping mechanism. It's a hack that's put together. And what I really needed was an XYZ solution to permanently solve that problem. People may say, well, I just need an Excel sheet that will do this. Go beyond that. Figure out what the core pain is and see if you can have a all-encompassing solution to address that core pain, not just that little feature, the Excel spreadsheet that they're looking for to solve a problem on a periphery. Okay, another great way to identify problems and how a solution should be manufactured to address that problem is to try to find out what trade-offs are being made. Like, what is the user sacrificing in order to compensate for that existing problem? What are they sacrificing in their current solutions? And this will give you an idea of not only how much they might be willing to pay for things, but just how painful that problem actually is, because you are literally getting a sacrifice, a trade-off that they're making in order to cope with the problems that currently exist. Okay, so once you have informed your audience of what the pain actually is, what the problem is, and what your proposed solution is, you need to convince the audience that this is the solution, that whatever your solution is the solution to the problem. So at this point, your audience should be convinced that there is a problem out there. Now, the second piece is you need to convince them that the solution you have in mind for this problem is viable, okay? And so there are two things that you need to be very careful of over here. Is your solution, right, exists specifically to address that problem. So you found the problem first and came up with the solution to solve that problem. That is different than you have a solution and you are looking for a problem that that solution can address. So what you do not want is this first one. You do not want a solution in search of a problem. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by this, but I will say that technical experts, so computer scientists, STEM experts, they tend to fall into this category where they have a solution in search of a problem. They're married to some sort of fancy, hip technology, and then they're trying to find something that they can do with this technology. So a long time ago, it was the internet was the technology, and then people were trying to find things that they could do with the internet. And then this is how we came up with like pets.com and cars.com. Is everybody wanted a .com because it was the internet. That was the solution, right? The internet was the solution, and we needed to find problems that the internet could then go ahead and solve. These are never permanent solutions. So nowadays, right? So after the internet, it used to be the cloud. It was all cloud-based solutions, and then those were in search of a problem. Then it was machine learning. Then it was AI, and now it's like Chat GPT clones out there. People are fascinated by a technology, and then they want to see what they can do with the technology and find a problem that they can solve with it. This is almost the absolute opposite of what business thinking is. From the business perspective, you want to find a problem and then address the market's problem, no matter what technology is used to create the solution to that problem. And again, this means you need to start with a core pain, not with the technological solution that you want to use. Oops. Okay. That being said, in order to convince somebody that your solution is the proper solution for the problem, you need to show at least three things. First one is, can you actually do it? Can you actually create this solution, right? Do you have the technical expertise and the business expertise and the resources to actually create this solution? Oftentimes we find that business innovators and business partners, they have great ideas. They're able to identify a problem, but they do not have the technical expertise, the chemistry, the computer science knowledge, the machine learning or artificial intelligence background to be able to create that solution, okay? So first thing you need to convince, can you actually create the solution? Second piece, if you can create this solution and build out whatever this solution actually is, does the solution actually work? Do you have proof of concept that the solution you built actually fully addresses the problem that you have identified? We call this proof of concept. Can you prove out that your solution can solve the problem? Your concept solves the problem that is at hand. Okay, so if you have those two pieces, you already have a really solid foundation for funding, for moving on to next steps, right? That you can actually build out whatever the solution is, and the solution itself actually works. Okay, and then this last piece is you show that you have the solution, it actually works. Why should your particular audience care? Meaning, if you're pitching to financial potential investors, right? Why should the investor care? The investor cares if they can make a lot of money off of it. So does your solution that works, right? Your solution that works that you can actually build or have already built, can it make the investor a lot of money, right? Or if you're using your pitch deck to pitch to a technical co-founder, great. If you have this idea and you know that it actually works, why should the technical co-founder care? Is it going to make them rich? Is it going to make them famous? Is it going to make them influential? What are the hot buttons of that potential co-founder? What do they care about? And will you be able to fulfill that for the founder? So you need to convince based upon who the audience of the pitch deck actually is. So now let's get into some specifics. Okay. Can you actually do it? This a lot of times rests on the shoulders of the technical expertise. And very rarely, I would say very rarely, can you just say, we are so smart and we are so special that we can do it when nobody else does. Very few people can do this. Now, if you are an absolute domain expert in the context of the wide world, then great, you can probably claim this. So if you have a PhD, if you hold multiple patents, if you are a recognized expert within this field, like nationally or globally recognized expert in a field that has a very specific technical expertise, you can just kind of pull out your bona fides and say, yes, I am the technical expert in the world on this subject. People come to me for consulting on solving problems in this area. Great. Then that's all you really need, because you obviously have the technical expertise. But if you simply majored in this, this was your college major, right? Or maybe you've worked in it, maybe you've worked in this for like this industry for like, 5-10 years or so. You cannot just pull on your resume to say, hey, I am the technical expertise here. You need to go beyond that and really show a plan of how this is going to get executed. Okay. A lot of times we have people, usually business people, or usually people who have worked for a little bit inside of an industry, but haven't really completely thought through their idea. They have a great idea, but they are what we call tar pit ideas or world peace. I'm actually going to start with world peace. World peace, everybody wants world peace. It's a problem, right? Nobody's going to argue that world peace, like the lack of world peace, is not a problem. It is definitely a problem. There are plenty of wars going on in this world. But how do we achieve world peace? Nobody has been able to offer solutions on how we can achieve world peace. So a lot of people get stuck with something like this, world peace. It's a great idea. Everybody loves it. Everybody wants it. Nobody can execute on it. Nobody can come up with a coherent plan on how to achieve world peace. Okay, so you want to kind of move yourself away from this. So I would say like nuclear fission is one of these world peace ideas, right? Unless you are a handful of nuclear physicists with a whole bunch of resources behind you, you can't convince any audience that you are able to achieve nuclear fission, although a group of scientists just achieved nuclear fission, right? But be careful on what you say, what you purport you should be able to do, and recognize that this bucket, you need to compare yourself to not just your classmates or San Francisco State or California, but to a worldwide audience that you are an expert if you're trying to convince people that you can do something like this. Another one is tar pit ideas. And what a tar pit idea is, it's an idea that just sucks you in. Again, it's a very sexy idea, but everybody gets stuck inside this idea. People try to solve the idea. It seems very, very solvable, but you'll find just dead dinosaurs inside this tar pit, and people get stuck inside that tar pit over and over again. So one of these tar pit ideas that we routinely see pitched to us is some sort of shared collaborative sharing industry parking application. So some sort of app that can coordinate local parking spots with people who need parking spots. Everybody loves the idea. Everybody can see how this could be totally useful, but it is a tar pit idea, as many people have tried it and many people have failed at it. And still many people are currently trying at it and struggling through it. And what is revealed inside tar pit ideas are usually forms of regulation, right? Or not enough commitment on there's not enough of a value proposition on the customer's end of things. So there's usually a lot of legal things that don't immediately jump out that work inside tar pit ideas. So be very careful. How do you know if you have a tar pit idea? Google some strenuous Googling to see who else has tried this idea. So I'm still shocked at the number of these like parking spot sharing app ideas that we get pitched, when all you have to do is a couple of simple Google searches and you will see that a lot of people have tried them and just as many people have like failed at them. Be very careful with these tar pit ideas. Okay, so now that I've kind of described, the situations where you just definitely cannot convince the audience that you can do it, what do you need to show in order to convince people that you can do it? So not only kind of the technical expertise that you understand the market, you need to show that you are an expert in that market area, in the understanding of that problem, but you need to show, so that's the ability piece, that you can actually do it. You have the know-how on how to do it. Also lumped into the ability, I would say, is the resources, right? Do you have the computing power? Do you have the availability of people, a team that can help you do this, help you execute it? Do you have the ability to do it? Second piece is commitment. And this piece kind of goes into ability, but I put it in a separate section because the audience will ask, is the time commitment. It is best if you show that you have already put in a lot of time and a lot of money into it, or rather, that you have put your own skin in the game. And that could be either time and or money at the same time. Great if it's both, because that means you believe in it enough and you believe in your ability to execute enough that you have spent a lot of time and you have spent a lot of money into trying to go ahead and make it work. That's not to say that, if you show stubborn commitment, time and money wise, that it is convincing. Because if you pursue a tar pit idea and world peace ideas, you may have spent a lot of time on it, but it's just not doable. It's not executable. So when you show time commitment, the best thing to show if you're a student is that you have spent your spare time doing this, that this is all your waking hours outside of class is what you're doing. It is this concept, working on the solution. And in terms of ability, there's nothing like expertise to show that you are able to execute on this. If you personally don't have the technical expertise, get a technical co-founder who is willing to be that, convincing component of, hey, we have the right team on board that can actually create the solution. Okay. Now, the convincing of why, in this case, an investor should care. Oftentimes, the investors will only care if the market is big and the margins are good. And I'm going to leave a comprehensive lecture on, financial modeling and revenue models for another day. But the starting point of convincing investors that your concept is worth their time is to show that sales will be big, lots and lots of sales, right? And you can do that in a couple of ways. Either the market, the entirety of the market of people who have this problem is huge, and that your solution is so good that you are able to capture some percentage of the market. Big market, and you get big pie, and you can get a big slice of the pie is essentially what this is. And investors love when the pie is big and you as a concept can argue for your ability to get a big slice of the pie. Another way is to show that, you know, you can already think of a lot of people with this problem. Maybe the problem is so new, so unique that it isn't actually defined by a research report or so, but you can already start to name a lot of initial customers. So you have a large set of initial customers that you can already start to talk about, and that you can charge a lot for them. So this is another way in which you can start kind of showing to an investor audience that the potential for sales is really large. Oops. Okay. The next piece of, yes, we can do it, right? Like we can build out the solution. The next piece of that is the solution itself works. So again, oftentimes we will nod our heads to the logical argument of, you know, oh, people have this problem, and logically it seems like your solution should work. But now we need proof of concept that, okay, it sounds like the solution would work, but now we want proof that your solution actually works. In an academic setting, this is essentially running an experiment and testing out whether your hypothesis works or not, whether your hypothesis is true or not, is validated or not. So when we talk about proof of concept, we want you to prove that your concept actually works. So you pitch and you come up with whatever your solution actually is, you come up with and you execute on an MVP, a minimally viable product, a janky, hacked together way in which you can test out whether conceptually your solution will work or not. And then you run tests on potential customers with this minimally viable product. And I'll give you a classic example of minimally viable products and how they don't have to be complicated and how it actually is just minimal. Is hopefully you guys have heard of Zappos, the online shoe retailer that eventually got bought out by Amazon. So when they were pitching their idea, which was, hey, let's get people to buy shoes online, and they defined their problem as, you know, there are a lot of people who have specialty shoe needs and it's not available at their local store, but the internet has this very wide reach, and we can have, like, you know, a centralized, very wide selection of shoes of not only styles and designs, but sizes and purposes for shoes. And the internet is this perfect vehicle for reaching these like esoteric small markets for specialty shoes. Sounds great, right? And so now they needed to test it out. But it's expensive. Back then, it was very expensive to build out a full e-commerce site and to have like a full stock of inventory of weird esoteric sizes and styles of shoes. And so how were they going to test out this concept that people would actually buy shoes online and be happy with them? Well, they put together a minimally viable product. Their minimally viable product was, they put up a website. It was just kind of brochureware and kind of like a form to fill out. That was essentially the site. They screen scraped a whole bunch of shoes from different places. It wasn't an actual e-commerce site, but it was a whole bunch of pictures of shoes. You clicked on a set of shoes and then you could choose a size, and then you would fill out a form and essentially check out. But there was no e-commerce backbone to this entire site. When an order came through, it was actually just an email to the founding team. The founding team would run out to the local shoe store, buy the shoes, package up the shoes, and mail the shoes via like US Postal Service. There was no fulfillment center on the back end also. And that was what they used to test out whether or not people would buy shoes online and whether they would be happy with the entire Zappos concept and service design. That's all we mean by minimally viable product. Just enough, just build out something just enough to be able to test out whether your core concept, your core solution would actually work, okay? Now, oftentimes you test out the minimally viable product. Now, after you've tested it out for a while, can you repeat it? A minimally repeatable product. So having a Zappos founder go out, buy shoes, package it up, and like, physically mail it from USPS, that's good for one-offs, and maybe you can do it 100 times, right? But when you're really ready to test out the robustness of your idea and to really open up the floodgates to all potential customers, you need a minimally repeatable product. So something that can now handle a bit of volume, right? So this is where you start needing a little bit of seed funding, maybe a first round of funding, because now you're starting to build out a more robust solution. Oftentimes we find that founders have a solution, they start off in this first box, and then they kind of jump to here. They immediately want to build out that first full e-commerce site or build out that full app, like, phone app with all the bells and whistles on it. This is expensive, and this is an expensive way to test and find out that nobody cares about your product. It's best to go to this small step first. So when people talk about, hey, do you have an MVP and do you have results from your MVP? That's this. When people talk about, do you have proof of concept? Have you proven that your concept works? They're talking about this. Do you have your MVP yet, and have you tested it out, and do you have results that this is something that actually solves the customer's problems? What you start finding out on the repeatable products and the minimally viable solutions is now you start getting a feel for how much it's going to cost you to offer this solution up to potential customers. Then you start getting an idea of whether your concept makes financial sense or not. Let's first find out whether the concept makes sense or not, then whether it makes financial sense or not, okay? And the further along you get on this tract, the stronger your concept becomes. The more sellable, the more convincing your concept becomes. Okay. Finally, the most convincing thing of all is if you can show product market fit. So when people talk about product market fit, they want to know that your product or service, has paying customers. Number one, people are willing to pay for it. So you work well enough where people are paying for it, right? So that's convincing point number one, that somebody's willing to cut you a check. That's great. That's awesome traction to show, especially as a startup. That second piece is you have so many people who want your solution that the demand is overwhelming. You can't fulfill that demand unless you get more funding, unless you get more employees, unless you get more resources. Those are the two big pieces to showing product market fit. The market likes you enough, likes your product or service enough to pay you. Second one, that there are enough people who want whatever it is that you're offering, that it's overwhelming you and you need help to reach that next step. That's how you show product market fit. Okay. And then finally, last, like, who are you convincing and how do you end up convincing? These are just some of the different buckets of audiences that you might be running into that will say, hey, sounds like a great idea. Do you have a pitch deck? Can you send it along? These are kind of the buckets that you're going to be creating pitch decks for and trying to convince. I would say, first target yourself to employees and co-founders. You can't do this alone. To get you to the MVP stage, the minimally viable product stage, or even some of that market research phase, you're going to need somebody to help you out. So I highly recommend first creating a pitch deck, kind of to solicit a co-founder, someone to join you on this journey. And then probably the second one is maybe a family and friend or angel investor, somebody who can kind of pony up, like a couple $1,000s or so to help you on your way to an MVP. Or, to help you and your co-founder out so that, you guys can actually pay rent and maybe eat ramen while you develop that MVP. So I would say from a priority standpoint, target a pitch deck to a co-founder, and then finally, target your pitch deck to friends and family and the potential angel investors next. And with that, okay. You want to put in a call to action to those groups. So you want to make it very clear to those audiences what you want them to do next. Get in touch.
I'm sorry. Could you please just go back that slide? I just missed the last two, partners and investors. Thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Is you want some concrete call to action. Do I want you to invest? Do I want you to lend me money? Do I want you to introduce me to somebody that I need, right? Like, am I looking for people on my advisory board? Am I looking for people that I can sign on as a beta customer? Like, make it very clear what you want from them, right? I am looking for partners in the banking industry that need X, Y, and Z, right? Because oftentimes your investors, they may not be willing to put up money yet, but maybe they're willing to introduce you to some of their investments, right? That might be able to use your product or so. So don't be afraid to kind of list out all the things that you want. Because oftentimes, people may not be willing to give money, but they're willing to give their time or to give their introduction and their community to you as well. So be very explicit. Don't just leave a slide up there with like questions, right? Leave the slide up on a whole list of wants, of what you want from them. So I will leave you with this then, because I want you all to apply to Incubator, and I want you guys to learn more about I&E at SFSU, because I want you to use our services. So my call to action for you guys is to scan these QR codes and keep it in the back of your mind that when you need incubation help or consulting, mentoring, coaching help, we are here to help you. And these are the two sites that you can definitely go to for that. And with that, I am going to open it up for questions. If you guys have any questions or comments, or if you had like, something that you wanted to test out or throw up against the wall and get some feedback on. Go ahead and.
This is Tees Swackhammer, and I just want to say this was really great. I launched a product in 1999, and it still sells on Amazon. It's a baby shower game. Made a few mistakes, and so that was interesting. One of which is the name. It's a baby shower game based on the game Pictionary, and we called it Baby Draw. But in 1999, I wasn't thinking too much of search engines and what you would get when you type in Baby Draw. Get a lot of coloring books and yeah. So that's been a challenge. And then the other thing was they told me not to put a little pull tab thing. Like I wanted it to hang in party stores. Again, it's 1999. So I wanted to be in a party store, and you would hang a baby shower game like you would the little crossword puzzles and things like that. But it kind of cheapened it. It should be more like a little boutique box type thing, or I should have had it be much smaller. It has like 123 cards in it. Drawing cards, and 123 is also kind of a weird number, 1, 2, 3. So we made a few mistakes, but and then my husband and I held on to a patent for 17 years on an item. We did all of these things, and I got very, very close. I wondered what your opinion is of the oh my goodness, I can't hardly even think of their name right now. It's the PBS. Oh my gosh, it's just escaping me. We went to, pardon me?
Oh, no worries.
It'll come to me. Come back to me. I will look it up on my computer. I don't know why it's just gone. But we went through them and got very close with it. This was another baby product. And Sassy, the baby product company called Sassy, if you're a parent, you've probably bought many of their items. They sell, pacifiers and everything and bottles and all that. And Nook, NUK. And we were a finalist among 4 candidates, but nothing. So we were always, our audience was always a baby company that would license it because this was a little plastic container item and we didn't want the exposure. We were not interested in mortgaging the house for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little risk averse on that side of it. So we let the patent expire, but I know a lot of things have changed. And now you can do 3D prototyping and all of this. So I would definitely like to get in touch because I have looked as recently as last week to see if our product is on the shelves anywhere, and it's still not. And I think it is just a fantastic product. And we took all those steps, and I was part of a mom's club and did the groups and got everybody's feedback. And it was yes, 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 this would be great. But
I'm going to put my email in the chat there. And something, depending on what the packaging is like, right? It doesn't have to be very expensive. If you had some sort of plastic injection molding, packaging or so, I could see how that could get very expensive. But if it is a Pictionary-like type game, and you can imagine the card decks that might come with like Cards Against Humanity or something like that. Mm-hmm. Those are easily manufacturable in short runs in China, and then shipped on over. And from a revenue model perspective, those types of games, just like with Cards Against Humanity, is expansion packs, right? That you would sell add-on packs. You might start with the 123 cards, and then you can sell expansion packs onto that. What I would say in terms of like revisiting this concept and kind of reviving it and bring it back to the marketplace would be to think back to the core of what the person who's purchasing this, what they're hoping to achieve. So oftentimes it's not just about an activity, but it's about creating celebration and pride and the ability to show off for the new parent or so. So kind of feed into those values and desires for the target market. So you can see either maybe like the potential parent purchasing it, or the person who's organizing the baby shower purchasing it, and think about what they are looking for, not only on the most basic front, which is like, oh, some activity for people to do, but what feelings they want to achieve from each activity or so that they're deciding to schedule into a baby shower.
Yeah, I would love to talk to you about relaunching, into smaller packs and things like that. But I think I may have confused things. The licensing thing was for a plastic mold. That was a completely different product. We have a copyright on the game, and yet somebody still managed to copy it and get away with it. But it's another story. But for the plastic molded product, that was a little powder, baby powder formula dispenser. And I think the issue that we ran into there was that it cannibalized on products that are already selling well with these manufacturers, whether it's Evenflow or Nook or Sassy or whoever. They have these larger containers. And if they were to offer the smaller, more streamlined one, that also would grow with your child and be through the toddler years too, because it's a great little snack holder and they can hold it in their hand. But I still think that they do so well with what they have. It's an investment to create a whole new line, right? And then it would possibly cannibalize what these little 3 container things that they already have on the market. So, but I still feel like that one's worth pursuing, and I think it's easier now. It was almost $100,000 if we wanted to just do a first you called it the MVP part. Yeah, just to get the plastic mold was 75,000. And that was before we even ran any.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was overseas, so it was just like, wow.
Yeah, these days with 3D printing, it's a lot easier to get that proof of concept because it's so much easier to produce like even 50 to 100 units just off of a 3D printer.
Yeah, and yeah, and as long, the tricky part too is that it's a food item, right? So you want to make sure that you're not,
Safe.
Yeah, it has to be safe. So it was a little trickier. I really wanted somebody else to, take on that risk. And, we weren't looking to make $1 million out of it. I was just happy, if it could just be, if they had tried to negotiate with me, they would have been surprised. I just wanted it out there.
Yeah.
And I knew a lot of people who wanted it out there too. So anyway, I'd love to get in touch with you and talk about both, because the shower game still sells, and I think it would do better if it were in a smaller pack and maybe even make it a little less expensive and be fun to explore that.
Yay. Yeah, and if you're ever on campus, also we hold physical office hours for students, alumni, community on all of their business ideas. Yeah, in the student-run restaurant in the Vista Room, where I am right now, 401 Burke Hall.
Yeah, well, okay, 401 Burke Hall, good. Oh yeah, I can get up to campus, no problem. Yeah. Okay, great. I'm gonna take get these QR codes here.
Oh,
Yeah, so I can get them on my phone. Oh, this was great. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I did attend the what was it, the 2021 what do you call it? Hold on a second, I'll find it. The Entrepreneurship, Innovation and Entrepreneurship Symposium and Pitch Competition. And I was very impressed with the second place winner, Localized. Let me turn on my video so you guys can know who you're talking to. Hi. My name is Adrienne. I live in the city of East Palo Alto. I do part-time business consulting for small nano businesses. And our city has been very neglectful, in my opinion, of small businesses, especially during the COVID pandemic. So I've been advocating a lot, and we have a lot of development coming up soon. And a lot of the developers, such as Sobrato, Harvest Properties, and also Lynn Powell's big conglomerate, what's it called, Emerson Collective, have all pledged as community benefits space for local businesses. And so I hope I see more students here, because I'm trying to do a lot of things by myself. So I was hoping to sometime connect with someone, probably you, Ms. Yang, to either offer an independent study through my business or through one of the developers to kind of develop a concept, because when those spaces are built, we need to make sure that our local serving businesses can stay there, right? That they're prepared, so that, because what will happen is we'll have like a big box chain coming in, right? So I'm trying to be proactive, and I'm kind of getting people together to support these businesses so that they can have subsidized or free space in these spaces that are supposedly going to be offered to the community as community benefits.
Resource. Yeah.
So if I can circle back to you at some time, and I really appreciate, look, I was an interdisciplinary arts major and a music minor, right? And I've built up my business knowledge through taking courses at local community colleges. And I'm just feeling like even with the knowledge I've obtained, I'm still needing some help. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity to offer maybe an independent study or an internship. So we can get ready for this. So thank you so much for having this, and thanks for including us alumni.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, if you had had this degree when I was there, I would have jumped on it. Absolutely. I did think of the name Edison Nation is
Edison Nation.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're still around, but yeah, you could pitch your ideas and go through all these stages. And I did know one person who got a pet toy licensed through them. So,
Hmm.
way back when I was part of an inventors group, and we would all meet and just, talk about resources, and there were attorneys who would come. So I got a free consultation with an attorney when somebody stole my baby shower. Yeah. But I wonder, what do you think of things like Shark Tank,
A lot of the
Love
Shark
it.
Tank folk, they ask really good questions. And I don't know the behind the scenes of how they filter in. I imagine it's very American Idol like, where they have they filter for really good people, and then they filter for just like way out there people.
Pure entertainment. Yeah.
Pure entertainment people, exactly. But for the most part, I would imagine that each one of those interviews go on for a much longer period of time, and it's just edited down to like, that very short, maybe like 5-10 minutes for each inventor. But they asked, it's surprisingly good, poignant questions. Some of them you can definitely see it's more chance taking than anything else. They'd fall in love with the inventor itself. But I want to say, oh, what's his name? Now I'm blanking. He owns the basketball teams.
Well, I'm not that
Mark
familiar.
Cuban. Mark Cuban. He actually, I actually respect his questions and thought processes the most out of them. But I would say if you're looking for kind of how to tell that story, no one pitch on Shark Tank really gives you the full story of how you should be telling, and convincing an audience of your idea. And so I think that's the downside. So unless you've watched every single season, every single episode, you don't really get a full picture of how to craft that full story.
I have to confess, I'm not a Shark Tank watcher. I've looked up a few YouTube videos of success stories just to see, like this with the woman who did the bug bite thing. I actually bought that to try it, and it worked so well. I bought some for some friends. It actually really does work. It's an amazingly simple product.
The great part about Shark Tank, though, is by the time, so the good ones that get on there, they have MVPs. Like they have the product, they've tested it out, they have full proof of concept there. And
I have noticed.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of, can you convince the sharks that the market is big enough? The market is big enough, and that team can do it. That's usually the point in which Shark Tank takes on.
Yeah, nobody would ever be interested in a baby shower game. The market's way too small.
It's too small. Yeah.
And then with the powdered formula, they're the expense part, and the daily, everything that you mentioned about what the problem is. It's so expensive to waste formula. It is so expensive, baby formula. So
no. I think we lost you there for a second, but you're back.
Oh yeah, it did kind of freeze. The baby shower, or the baby formula, it's very expensive, really expensive. And when you waste just one bottle, you're pouring like $8 down the drain. It's terrible. But again, the market is very specific, and it's short-lived.
But something, honestly, it could be so think of okay. So like the Pictionary game for baby showers, right? You can argue that that's a very temporary audience also. Like, how many times does a person need to buy that? And then you can also argue that, okay, well, this baby formula dispenser thingy is, how often do you need to buy baby formula? Like, your kid will grow out of it after a couple of years or something like that. Start thinking about who would be needing baby formula on a consistent basis for a long time. So then, I'm thinking like maybe daycare centers or hospitals or something like that, right? In which cost cutting is a really big thing. and cost savings are a really big thing. So maybe the target market is not the end consumer, but like the institution, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's the baby formula company, and they package one of those devices with each one of the packages of formula also.
That was part of my pitch. I tried. Yeah, daycare centers for sure, late night feedings and babysitters and nannies and yeah, you name it, right? And for the shower game, it actually is a great icebreaker at all the parenting classes, which have become more popular. You
There you
start
go.
it right there with that too. Yeah, but anyway. Oh, this was fun. Thank you for doing this. Yeah.
No, not at all. And this is something that we as an initiative want to do more often, is to engage and bring alumni back onto campus and expose our students to the alumni and really build out that network. So I'm glad you guys are here and you guys got some value out of it.
Yay, I'm glad there was another alumni.
Yeah. Well, both my kids went to SF State too.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, great.
All right. Well,
Stop the PowerPoint. And
yeah.
Great. And Nara went ahead and put some things in the chat. She runs all the pitch competitions
Oh, okay.
for the university. Yeah. And so
Ms. Yang, do you remember Localized? Do you know how those guys are, how they fared?
I do. I don't think they pursued it afterwards. They were economics grad students, and I think they went on to further grad studies. So
Oh boy, because I thought that would be something, and I tried to somewhat pitch it to our assistant city manager, but he deferred it to the director of economic and community development, and she was kind of like, "Oh, I take my direction from the city council," and I was like, "Never mind."
yeah,
I thought they had a
politics
great
makes things
concept.
difficult.
Yeah. Oh well. Okay. Well, I'll definitely be there this year. I missed it last year because I was serving on the San Mateo County Civil Grand Jury. And it seems like I just get lost in there. And by the way, I'm not sure, well, we don't have many students here, but maybe Ms. Swackhammer, I'm not sure where you live, but I know we have a lot of people that live in South City and Daly City. We need more people to apply. The application deadline is March 31st. So anybody that happens to review this video, if you're interested.
Yeah, Adrian, go ahead and put a link or some informational thing into the chat, and I'll make sure that that we mention it.
And this is a recorded session.
Mm-hmm.
So we can go back to it to look at the slides again. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, and where will that be in the? Well, it's just in the email that I already have, right?
So it'll be posted up to the Lamb Family College of Business's Innovation and Entrepreneurship events site. So you can go to past events, and then there will be a link to the recording.
Great. Yeah, I'm definitely going to try to attend some of these events. It sounds great.
Yeah, we're hosting our entrepreneurship symposium that Adrian went to 2 years ago. That's going to be coming up in April 28th. On April 28th, also a Friday, and the university pitch competition. You'll get to see the finalists there during the latter half of the symposium. There.
Terrific. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Great. All
Yay.
right. Well, thanks again.
Thank you. Have a wonderful Friday, everyone.
Have a
It
great
looks gorgeous outside for once.
We've got some more rain coming, but that's fine. That's fine. It's that time of year. Let's get everything nice and wet and have no fires later this year. Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you, Adrian. This is perfect.
It took me a while. I had to go find a link. I had to open up my web site and find a link.
Okay. The grand jury?
Civil grand jury.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Not the criminal or the ones you get summoned for jury duty for. This is a volunteer opportunity where you get to explore anything you want to in the county, any of the county's agencies, to do a deep dive. And it could be something with how the county is supporting their small businesses or big businesses. So
great. Yeah,
it's a great opportunity to take a deep dive into a subject matter, and also give different organizations, county entities, some direction, recommendations, I should say, of how they can better serve our communities. So thank you so much.
Great, I'll definitely take a look. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you too, Ms. Yang.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.